Maybe you don't know this, but when it comes to money, there is a very strange rule. The things that come quickly often make you poorer, and the things that come slowly are the ones that make you richer. It may sound paradoxical, but life often operates in such contradictory ways. Just pay attention, and you'll see. Those who look for quick ways to make money often lose both their capital and their confidence. Those who try to skip stages, who want instant results, are usually the ones who never achieve long-term results. And those who move quietly, those who persist, those who accept going slow, are the ones who accumulate the most. Not because they are smarter, not because they are luckier, but because they understand something most people don't. The power of compounding is not for the impatient. It is only for those patient enough to stay still in the face of slowness. We live in an era where everyone is in a hurry, wanting to get rich fast, wanting to change their life fast, wanting results immediately. But money doesn't follow your emotions, it follows your habits. And there is something you need to hear very clearly. You are not poor because you go slow. You are poor because you constantly change direction, constantly start over, constantly dig up the seed you just planted to see whether it has sprouted. If you've ever felt like you're trying endlessly but getting nowhere, if you've ever wondered why others move ahead while you remain still, if you've ever been disappointed because results come too slowly, then stay until the end of this video, because I'm going to share with you a principle that, once I understood it, completely changed my life. You know, what weighed on me for many years wasn't that I was poor or that I started slower than others. What weighed on me was the feeling that I had lived too long without understanding a rule so simple that almost everyone overlooked it. People don't fail because they lack opportunities. People fail because they don't stay long enough to see the result of the small thing they planted earlier. I used to meet many young people who asked me, "Jim, how do I change my life?" And in most of them, I saw a very familiar look, the look of someone who wants everything to come quickly. They want change after just a few weeks. They want their wealth to increase after just a few months. They want a better life without going through the slow, steady, quiet days, the days without fireworks, without applause, without results to show off. But life is built from exactly those days. The biggest problem people have is not knowing what to do. The biggest problem is not staying long enough in the right thing to see it bloom. We quit too soon. We change direction too fast. We doubt too much. And then we conclude, maybe this just isn't for me. Not exactly. It's just that you weren't patient enough to see that your seed was still sleeping underground. Have you noticed? Most financial mistakes begin with a feeling, impatience, get rich quick, lose money quick, fix mistakes quick, then make mistakes quick again. Life keeps spinning like that because we think results must come immediately. We forget that life's rewards are not for the impatient, but for those who wait. I once met a 5-year-old man. He worked hard, earned decent money, but after 10 years, he had nothing except a tiny savings account. He told me, "Jim, I've tried so hard, but I don't understand why my life is standing still." I asked him one single question. "In those 10 years, how long did you do the right thing?" He went silent, then admitted that every time he started a good habit, saving, investing, learning, he maintained it for only a few months. Then he felt slow, felt bored, felt like nothing was happening, and quit. Each year he started over several times, but never long enough to see anything take shape. That is the root of the problem for so many people. We live in a cycle of short-lived beginnings. People start many things, but finish nothing. And do you know what hurts the most? Every time you start over, you lose the most precious thing, time, the very thing compounding needs to blossom. If you plant a seed and dig it up every week to check on it, the seed dies. Not because it can't grow, but because it never gets the chance to grow. Many of us treat our lives exactly like that. We plant a good habit, then constantly doubt it. We plant a small investment, then give up when it doesn't move. We plant a long-term goal, then feel disappointed when we don't see progress after 2 or 3 months. And do you know the result? Not failure, but no result at all. The root of poverty is not in your wallet, it's in your mindset. A mindset that always wants fast, always wants easy, always wants to see results before being willing to pay the price. A mindset that forgets that everything lasting in life grows in silence. People see others' success, but not the thousands of quiet days behind it. People admire the towering bamboo, but forget that it spent 5 years growing only roots underground. What makes you poor is not that you go slow. What makes you poor is going a short distance, then stopping, then starting again, then stopping again. You break the cycle of compounding before it even has a chance to work for you. You are running a race, but every few steps you return to the starting line. And you call that trying. No, that is not trying. That is exhaustion inside the cycle of inconsistency. If today you feel like your life has been standing still for years, look back and ask yourself how long you have truly stayed in what is right. Maybe you're not wrong. You just haven't gone long enough. Many years ago, I met a woman who made me think deeply about slowness and the power of small things. She wasn't wealthy, nor did she come from any special background. She was just an ordinary office worker, living in a small town, going to work every day, coming home to cook dinner, reading in the evening, then going to bed early. A life that seemed unremarkable until you looked at how she treated every dollar she earned. I asked her, "What have you been doing for more than 20 years to accumulate something so astonishing?" She smiled, her eyes gentle but carrying the weight of someone who has lived. She said, "I didn't do anything big, Jim. I just did one thing long enough." That answer left me silent for a moment. You know, among the thousands of people I've met, very few understand the meaning of the two words, long enough. She told me that when she was young, she used to be impatient. Every time she saved a little, she wanted to spend it, upgrade her life, buy something new. But then she realized a painful truth. Every time her lifestyle went up a bit, her finances went back to where they were. It repeated like that for many years. Her salary increased, but her life didn't improve. One day, she happened to read a quote. "It doesn't matter how much you earn. What matters is how much you keep and how long you let it grow." That quote was like a beam of light cutting through her life. From that day on, she started setting aside a small amount, a very small amount, so little that even she felt embarrassed depositing it into her investment account. But she did it every month. No showing off, no telling anyone, no hoping for miracles. She did it like a gardener watering a plant, knowing it wouldn't grow immediately, but still doing it, because she knew it was the right thing. She told me, "Jim, I wasn't looking for excitement. I was looking for peace. And peace came when I knew I was doing the right thing, even before seeing results." For 20 years, she never quit. For 20 years, she never dug up the seed to check whether it had sprouted. For 20 years, she never let temporary emotions pull her away from the small but right path she chose. When I asked her if she ever felt discouraged, she laughed. Of course. The first year, nothing changed. The second year wasn't better. The third, fourth, fifth years, everything was still painfully slow. But then one day, I realized I couldn't turn back. Not because I had gone too far, but because I had become the kind of person who could keep going. That sentence I carried with me for life. Do you know what the miracle was? Not the amount she accumulated, though it was so large that many in her town thought she had won the lottery. The miracle was that she became a person more consistent than anyone I had ever met. When I asked her what her secret was for staying consistent, she said, "I don't focus on the money. I focus on the habit. I know that if I keep the habit, the money will find its way to me." She saw every month of investing as a promise she made to herself that she would not betray the days she had already walked through. And each of those promises, no matter how small, became a brick in the solid financial house she built over more than 2 decades. There was a moment that nearly made my throat tighten. I asked her, "If you could start over, what would you do differently?" She looked into the distance and said, "I only wish I had started a little earlier, because it turns out the slowest things in life are the ones most worth it." When I left her small house that day, I carried with me a lesson no school ever taught. The power of compounding doesn't lie in the money you have, but in the person you become during the waiting. After many years of observing, talking with, and witnessing thousands of people pass through my life, I realized a truth that made me both sad and deeply concerned. Most people are not poor because they lack money. They are poor because they lack the depth to see the bigger picture. They look at life with eyes accustomed only to what happens today. They cannot see what could happen in 10 years, 20 years, if they stayed faithful to one small but correct thing. And so they lose one of the greatest gifts life offers, time. Time, you see, is the strangest thing in this entire world. It can be your most loyal ally or your most ruthless betrayer, depending on how you treat it. For those who understand compounding, Time is the friend that takes them farther than any vehicle ever could. For the impatient, time becomes the enemy, making them pay the price with stagnation and exhaustion. Have you ever noticed that successful people seem more relaxed? Not because they aren't busy, but because they no longer race against each day. They race with their vision. While most people see only today, they see 10 years. While most people see only this month's paycheck, they see value being accumulated little by little. While most people feel the need to prove themselves now, they are comfortable letting results speak when the time is right. Think about this. Why can a single dollar each day, after many years, become an amount big enough to change an entire life? It's not because the money is magical. It's because of the persistence of the person who put that dollar in. Persistence is the catalyst of every growth process. Without it, compounding is just a dry mathematical formula. With it, compounding becomes a miracle. I once said something, and the longer I live, the more I understand it. You aren't paid for the hour. You're paid for the value you create over many years. Many people hear this but don't understand it. They think they are paid for today's sweat. But the truth is, what you do today is only one part. Most of the value life pays you for comes from what you repeat every day for many years. We tend to overestimate what we can do in a few months and underestimate what we can do in a few years. That is a silent tragedy, yet so common it's frightening. Let me give you an image. Imagine you're standing in front of a long slope. Your first step doesn't make a difference. Your second step doesn't either. Your 10th step, the slope is still the slope. You don't see yourself any closer to the peak. And then you get discouraged. You turn back. You tell yourself, maybe this path isn't for me. But if you look from above, you would see something painful. You were going in the right direction. You just didn't go long enough. Life does not reward the person who starts the earliest. Life rewards the person who doesn't quit. Many people tell me, Jim, I tried, but I didn't see anything. I ask them, how long did you try? And most answers are, a few weeks, a few months. Do you know what that means? They didn't fail. They just didn't give it enough time to see victory. A stone carved by flowing water is not shaped in one day, not in one season, but over many years, many decades. The strength of water does not lie in force, but in persistence. And life works the same way. The small things you do today, reading one page, saving a little money, training one good habit, may seem insignificant. But when time stands on your side, they become what others will call luck. No, that is not luck. That is the compound interest of consistency. And here's the most important insight I want you to take with you. A right thing, if you do it long enough, will create results far beyond imagination. But a wrong thing, even if you do it very fast, will only take you to a dead end. Speed has never been the problem. The problem is speed in the wrong direction. Slowness has never been something to fear. What's frightening is you think you're moving, but you're actually standing still. When I understood the nature of compounding, I began to see life through different eyes. I realized that compounding doesn't exist only in money. It exists in everything that touches our lives. It exists in how we learn, how we live, how we love, how we become better people each day. And if you truly understand this, you will no longer live in haste. You will begin to live with direction. I remember a young man once asked me, Jim, I can only save a very small amount. Does it even matter? I told him, the small thing of today will become the great thing of tomorrow. Not because the amount changes, but because the person who puts it in changes. You know, every transformation in life begins with things so small, you barely notice you're changing. You just study 15 minutes each evening, but a year later you know twice as much. You just walk 10 minutes each morning, but a few years later your health improves so much people think you've grown younger. You just put a few dollars into an investment account every week, but 20 years later you look at the number and can't believe it's yours. All great things are born from quiet repetition. I once knew a man who worked in sales. When he first started, his income was barely enough to get by. But he had a very unusual habit. Every day, no matter how busy he was, he spent 20 minutes practicing communication skills. Just 20 minutes. He didn't even think it was important. He simply thought, a little each day and I'll get better. And he did it, not for a week, not for a month, but for 10 years. One day, he stood on a stage in front of thousands of people. People thought he had special talent. But he told me, Jim, I'm not more talented than anyone. I'm just more persistent than the version of me from yesterday. That is the compound interest of skill. You see, finances are only one part. Look at another aspect, relationships. A small thank you, a simple message asking how someone is doing, a modest meal with someone you love, all these things, repeated long enough, create what many call a happy family or a strong friendship. No one builds a deep relationship through grand gestures. They build it through small, steady actions, day after day. And there is something else few people notice. The compounding of character, a promise you keep, a responsibility you don't avoid, a right thing you do even when no one sees it. All of these, over time, build a reputation, and that reputation opens doors that money can't buy. People trust you not because you're rich, but because you're consistent. And that consistency is the compound interest of who you become over many years. I once heard an old man say something beautiful. Son, the oak tree isn't strong because it tries, it's strong because it stands there long enough. And I believe that's true for anyone. Life does not require you to shine immediately. Life only requires you to walk long enough on the right path. You can start from anywhere. You can start with any amount of money, any skill, any habit, but you must start, and you must continue. Do not underestimate small things. One page each night, and you will be far more knowledgeable in a few years. A small but steady savings, and you will have what others think is only luck. One kind word each day, and you will live in the love you yourself planted. You don't need to change your life in a month. You just need to change what you repeat in a day, and let time do the rest. Because in the end, every great result is the accumulation of small things you persistently do in silence. And once you understand this, you will no longer ask, how long until I see results? You will ask, how can I live the right way long enough? There's one thing, the longer I live, the more clearly I understand. Life does not reward the most skilled. Life rewards the most mature. And that maturity does not come from brief moments of instant brilliance. It comes from the quiet years in which you train yourself when no one is watching. That is the deepest essence of compounding, not just in money, but in the very person you become. I used to think that to become wealthy, I had to find a big opportunity, a breakthrough, something spectacular. But then one day I realized what takes a person far is not the big leaps. It is the ability to stand firm day after day in the right things, even when no one is applauding. The greatest compounding in life is not the compounding of money. It is the compounding of discipline. Money can grow slowly or quickly, depending on where you put it. But discipline grows in only one way, by how many promises you keep to yourself. A person may be skilled, may be intelligent, may have a good starting point, but if they lack discipline, time will take everything from them. On the other hand, an ordinary person, even a very simple one, who has disciplined time will multiply them in ways no one ever expected. You can see this in every area of life. A person who is honest for one day doesn't make any real difference. But a person who is honest for 10 years, they become someone everyone wants to work with. A person who is kind once doesn't leave much of an impression. But a person who is kind their whole life, they leave behind what others call a legacy. The compound interest of character is always slow, but so enduring that no failure can destroy it. I often say, you cannot build a big life out of small actions unless you repeat them long enough. And the interesting thing is, most of the things that matter most in life do not produce immediate results. You don't become wise after one book. You don't get good health after 1 week of working out. You don't build a strong relationship after just a few meetings. You don't become a person of value after just one course. All of these need time to mature. And time only stands on the side of those who are patient enough to walk with it. I have met many people who are more talented than I am, who started better than I did, who had more opportunities than I ever had, but many of them did not go far. And I understand why. They were only great in short bursts. They never stayed consistent long enough to become the best version of themselves. Do you know what image I love the most? It is the image of a worker striking a rock with a hammer. Nothing happens at the 10th blow. Nothing at the 100th. Nothing at the 500th. But then at some blow, the rock cracks. Not because that blow was the strongest, but because all the previous blows had accumulated. That is the life philosophy I want to pass on to you. No action is meaningless if you do it long enough. No effort is wasted if you stay consistent with it to the end. Those who want speed usually quit halfway. Those who accept slowness are the ones who reach the finish line. Life may not be fair in the short term, but life is extremely fair in the long term. You reap what you sow, but you only reap if you do not stop sowing. And here is the deepest thing I want you to remember. You cannot create big results if your soul is still small. You have to grow first, then results will follow. The compounding of the soul, of the mind, of character, of discipline, always comes before the compounding of money. Who a person becomes will determine how much they can own. Wealth comes after the person, not before. So don't worry too much about whether you are going fast or slow. Worry about whether you are going in the right direction. Worry about whether you keep going when no one believes in you. Worry about whether you keep your promises to yourself. Because in the end, the only thing time respects is consistency. In the end, you and I will both have to face a question no one can avoid. How long have I truly lived in what is right? It's not how many times you tried. It's not how many goals you started. It's not how many times you resolved to change. It is how long you have stayed consistent with one good thing. If you look back at your life and see it repeating in circles, trying then quitting, starting then stopping, excited then losing motivation, then maybe it's not because you lack ability. Maybe it's simply because you have never given yourself enough time for compounding to do its part. You don't lose because you go slow. You lose because you turn back halfway. You lose because you touched what was right, but never held on to it long enough. Think again about the story of the woman I told you about. She didn't do anything extraordinary. She didn't have a high income. She didn't have exceptional talent. What she had was persistence. And that persistence, when combined with time, became what others looked at and called luck. But you and I both know that was not luck. That was the reward for someone who dared to go all the way. Maybe you are in a stage where nothing seems to move. Maybe you set financial goals, but your account is still tiny. Maybe you are building habits, but the results are still moving at a snail's pace. Maybe you are sowing, but the soil is still silent. But remember, silent soil does not mean the seed isn't growing. Seeds grow in silence, not in noise. And who knows? Maybe just a few more months, a few more years, you will look back and be grateful for the day you decided not to give up. If you have listened this far, I want you to do just one small thing, one thing like the first step of compounding. Leave a small dot in the comments. Not for me to know you're here, but for you to mark a moment. The moment you choose to go slow but steady, deep but stable, consistent but at peace. And before we end, I want to leave you with a reminder I carry my whole life. Success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by the person you become. If you keep sowing, you will reap. If you keep walking, you will arrive. If you keep increasing your value each day, your wealth will have to chase you sooner or later. Thank you for spending this time here with me. If these moments touched you, please like, subscribe, and share this video to send this reminder to someone who needs it. And now, step out, look at your life, and ask yourself, today, what will I sow so that one day it can multiply my life